Welcome back to our channel. It has been a long day since we have an informative video here. A lot of people have been actually messaging us how to find a cheap accommodation, and not only cheap, it should be easier to find an accommodation in New Zealand, especially from the students who wish to come to New Zealand. So here we thought of putting an informative video regarding how to find an initial accommodation and settling down in New Zealand. Accommodation has been actually one of the most significant concern by most of the people who actually is planning to travel abroad and do some studies, or be it for a job or to settle permanently. So let's explore the options available for the students, how they can find an initial accommodation. So most of the students who come to New Zealand after enrolling to a course will be coming through some agents back in their own countries. And these agents can actually help the students by getting accommodation booked for them, so that makes it easier for other people or the students to acclimatize with the New Zealand way of living. And the agents can in fact actually also find cheaper accommodations in a much more easier way than we come to New Zealand and looking for it. The second option is, if you have got anybody, known people living in New Zealand, they will be the best option which the students can actually look, students or the people who are looking to settle down in New Zealand to find initial accommodation. How they can help you is that they must be aware about where to get the cheaper houses, and also they can give you some references, which is more important. The third most popular one, and which I also used when I came to New Zealand first time, was utilizing the Facebook, the social media. So Facebook can actually be a good help if you can actually search for the people who are living in that particular area where you're actually going to live after getting the university enrollment. Send some friend requests, or just Google the online resources or through the Facebook to find the communities, and you can also post some details that about your course and about yourself, and request for the people to comment on it if they are willing to, or if they have any accommodations or sharing rooms or any facilities available. So with the Facebook, that's what I also did it. So before coming to New Zealand, I joined in some of the Facebook community groups, and I posted on behalf of myself requesting for houses and rooms, and that helped me a lot to find the rates of existing in the particular community or in that particular area, and also to explore the different options available. The third one is a backpacker option, which most of the students or most of the people who come to New Zealand initially may not try these options because of the unfamiliarity. But in New Zealand, you can live cheaper in the backpacker hotels or hostels, and they could be much more cheaper, where you would be mostly sharing the room with many other unfamiliar people. So if you have that socializing skills, or if you're able to adjust with different people of different cultures or different backgrounds for a quite short period of time, backpacker option or hostels are one of the best options which I can suggest you. And the other important thing about this is that it's more cheaper than some of the common accommodations. The next option is exploring trade.me.co.nz. This is one of the websites which offer a lot of accommodation options, and a lot of people actually post the accommodation or renting options in this website. So it's absolutely free for people to Google and reply or message. So don't forget to explore this option. Lastly, it's a student accommodation, which is actually provided by the universities or the polytechnic or the educational institutions. But most people say that that is more costly, and it involves a lot of money involved in it, because we need to shell out a quite higher amount of rental. And some universities or education providers provide accommodation within the campus, so that can be much more conducive for some people who don't want to live with the local families or with unknown people. So one of the best advantage of living within the campus or the accommodation provided by the educational providers is that you will have the full security, and you need not have to worry for the utilities, the water, electricity, and other things which we are unfamiliar. And once we are familiar with the culture and the people around, and also how to move around, we can actually also shift from the hostel or the educational provided accommodation to the local houses, or we can even rent a unit or something like that. Now, if you have got a couple of options to stay, be it in hostel accommodations, or with sharing with some other people, or sharing within or your own community people, or living in an independent unit, there are certain things that obviously that you need to look into it. So the first thing, it's a budget, and what is included and how much you can afford. So the first thing that usually that you need to look into will be the utilities, like water, electricity, heating, cooling, and such things like that, and how is it backed up. The second one, which is more important in New Zealand, is the Wi-Fi. Mostly it's Wi-Fi is cheaper than the internet plans, unlike most of the countries, because there are less number of providers, and it's more, I would say it's highly priced. So Wi-Fi will be the cheap option, because the students obviously would have to have quite a lot of internet access, and will require that for their works. Third one will be the contract. You need to actually look into the contract if you're entering into a contract by signing some papers. And the other one is accessibility. So how easy is to access or to get into your campus or your education providers, or to move around within that city, is most important thing. That for example, if you would like to travel by bus, or the public transportation, obviously you need to be staying somewhere near to the city center or near to the campus. But if you have your own vehicle for travel, that's much more easy, and it's quite easier to get it. But anyway, initially for at least for 3 to 4 months, we or the students will usually prefer to travel by or utilize the public transportation. The other one is a toilet. So when we actually stay with somebody else or with the strangers in a house or a unit, you need to have a look how many washrooms or how many toilets and bathrooms the house is actually equipped with. Because if we have 4 to 5 students or a group of members living in the same house, and it's got only one toilet and a washroom, it's going to be a really tough task, and if they have got the same time schedules as well. And the last option would be that you need to look in the budget is like what parking options are available in most of the CBDs, like busy cities like Auckland or Wellington. Parking can be really cumbersome, and the parking is actually highly priced as well. Some of the units or the houses will have their own parking sessions. So if you, for example, if there are couples who are coming to the New Zealand as a student, if you've got 2 vehicles, make sure or ensure yourself that you have got enough parking spaces available with your accommodation. Otherwise, it's going to cost a lot. Don't forget to check also about the ventilation and insulation, which is more really important when you wanted to live in this type of European countries. So talking about the ventilation, it's unlike the windows and doors. Yes, obviously it plays a major role, and where you get the sunlight is also important. So most of the houses in New Zealand, people prefer facing it northwards, where you can get a lot of sunlight. And regarding the ventilation, most of the houses are not equipped with the advanced ventilation technologies that the new ones actually boast of. So one of the things that which I have come across in New Zealand houses is a HRV system, which actually can suck up the air within the building and send it out and bring in the fresh air when we turn it on. So look for that. So if you've got the HRV system, the advantage of that is that it can prevent the moisture within that house or the space, and also it can take away the cooking smell out, really. Because if you are especially from the Asian countries and uses a lot of masalas or curries and things like that, or prepare at home, it's going to be smelly. Especially this can be troublesome for the localites or the people who would like to come to a house, and this can also be an issue when your house or when your unit or your space, if you rent it, and the inspectors when they come for the routine inspection of your house, and when they find their houses smelled with the curry smells, they find it quite difficult. And also I must add that most of the houses will be carpeted, so these things can actually get absorbed. So having a good HRV ventilation system and also good windows can actually prevent the smell getting accumulated or getting stagnated in the same space. And looking into the insulation, so insulation is more important. And why? Because in winter seasons, especially in northern part and also in the southern part, more which is more cold, what happens is that if the windows are not double glazed, it can actually result in getting more cold air into the house. So we might feel a little bit more colder, and it won't be comfortable for us, especially during the peak season of the winter. So make sure or just inquire about how the glazing is like. So if it is double glazed, that's the best. And next is the insulation, which what the insulation is like. For example, some houses say that the houses are insulated on the ceilings and also on the floors, but not on the side. So the problem with this is that The side walls can get colder during the winter, and it can retain the cold air within the space, so we might feel a little colder. Eventually we might have to spend a lot of money to heat up the space, so our electricity bills can climb up. So if the house is fully insulated as per the standards, it's best. And from my experience is that if the house is not fully insulated, for example, if the side walls are not insulated, obviously the rental can be slightly low. But the downside of that is that we might spend or cough up quite a bigger amount in the name of electricity bills to compensate that. Now, you should also have to look if the house is equipped with a smoke alarm. As per the regulations and by the councils, every house should have a working smoke alarm. So ensure that when you get a house where you're living, even let it be with your friends, let it be with somebody, your family members or anybody else, ensure that the smoke alarm is actually functional and it's showing the red light display. It actually helps because most of these houses got a lot of wooden infrastructure base. So if in case, unfortunately, there is a fire breakout, the smoke alarms is going to be really helpful. But it also has got a downside effect. The thing which I have come across is that when, especially for Indians, when they try to cook Indian foods and when there is a lot of smoke around, this alarm can go beeping. And if it is a false alarm, which is going to the fire station, and if the fire engine has come to our residence, then we will be forced to actually pay $850. So ensure that when we cook there is no much smokes, but the smoke alarm is one of the things which we have to ensure is in place and it's working. That we must also have to look into is what facility the house is equipped with in regards of the heating and cooling. Some of the houses will have electrical heating facility, but the downside of that is if there is a power outage, we will be in trouble. And also if you're using the electrical heating facilities, it can actually end up in getting a higher amount of electricity bills. Some houses, like old houses, are equipped with the gas heating facilities, which is much more cheaper, but some may not be comfortable with the gas. And if we have got an HRV system, that is a much more better because it doesn't produce any gas or anything like that, so we will be more comfortable, and it is much more cheaper, and electricity bills won't be that higher. Talking about the drinking water, which is very much essential, and in New Zealand mostly we can see the tap waters will be actually two. The one will be labeled with the blue color icon, the other one will be with the red. The red actually should be provided with the hot water, the other one with the cold water. This water should be actually edible, which should be good to drink, but when I came to New Zealand thinking like this and I had used the tap water, where I ended up with sore throat and cold, so I stopped drinking from that water. Then I realized that tap water in that particular place was not really suitable for drinking because it was rich in calcium and it was actually hard water. But even the big cities like Auckland and Wellington, you can actually access the tap water for drinking. But if you find it difficult to adjust with the water, you can also get water bottles, like 20-liter water bottles from the supermarket nearby. It's not that expensive, but you can still afford it.